5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
You're listening to the GHT Overland podcast.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the GHT Overland podcast. This is where you get the greatest interviews and insights from overland travelers around the globe, learning from their stories and experiences as we interview overlanders from places like Australia, Africa, the Americas, Pakistan, and today, Hungary. You will learn the basics to the advanced in overlanding, so buckle up and get ready for a new adventure. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lisa. Today's featured guests are Evelyn and Ferenc from Hungary, two overlanders from Europe who quit their jobs at the end of 2017 to extend their overland travel. Evelyn worked in online marketing, and Ferenc is a lawyer, specialized in mutual funds. They previously completed a couple of major overland trips before their current trip. In early 2018, they traveled Northern Europe and Africa, while in 2014, Ferenc did a trip from London to Mongolia. Today, we are humbled to have them join us to learn from their experiences and stories of overland travel.
So, without further ado, welcome to the podcast, guys.
Hi. Hello. Hi, everyone, and thank you for having us.
We are so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure. We're humbled that you would join us today. So fill us in on any blanks we've missed in that intro and tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, well, we're a couple from Hungary. We've been together for 4 years, and we've done a lot of traveling together. And since mid last year, we decided to do a bit more overlanding than just usual backpacking or tourist stuff. And this year, this is what pretty much happening full time. So now we are in October, and we've been on the road pretty much since January.
Yeah.
With a short gap.
We did an African trip in January and February. Then we went to Vietnam and Bali, and now we are here in this big trip, in this big overland trip. And we are going to Singapore now from Budapest.
Yeah, the Vietnam and Indonesia trip in between Africa and this trip was actually just a backpacking gap in between the two overland adventures.
Okay, great. And in the intro, I said you're from Hungary, but again, tell us where you're at today.
Yeah, we are from Hungary. At the moment, we are in Southeast Asia, Laos, and heading down south towards Singapore.
Yeah, last week we were in China, and this is our 5th day in Laos now. So we are in Luang Prabang now.
That's awesome. So describe to us where you're at, like your location and surroundings. If you stepped outside right now, describe to our listeners what they would see and feel with the heat where you're at.
Okay. Well, we are in a town called Luang Prabang, which is one of the highlights of this country. It's I believe it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the center of the town, with old colonial houses and buildings, and it's right next to the Mekong River. For us, it looks very exotic with all the palm trees and jungle around the town, and also the weather is extremely hot at the moment. The rainy season is over. So it doesn't rain, but it's still very humid, and if you stand in the sun, it's just unbearable. So we are at the moment. So if I stepped outside now, I would be in front of an old colonial building, which is our guest house for a few days before we get back onto the road again to live in our rooftop tent.
Okay, that's great. Now, it's always fascinating to us on the time differences that we talk to some of our guests. So for us, it's, about 7:15 in the evening on Thursday. Remind me, what day is it there?
Yeah, so it's we are in the future compared to you. It's Friday. It's Friday morning here. It's 9 o'clock, just past 9 o'clock in the morning.
That's awesome. So good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Good
thank
evening.
you.
I hope Friday is a good day.
Tell us what inspired overland travel for you.
Well, I've got two passions. One of them is cars, and the other one is travel. So this just combines the two perfectly for me. And I also really like camping. With a couple of friends of mine, we've done this big trip to Mongolia. We attempted to drive to Mongolia. We didn't quite make it with the car, but we made it eventually. Long story. And in 2014, and that just got me thinking that this is something I really want to do. This was in 2014, and ever since I just started to read about it. I started to watch YouTube videos, and it just got me really, really interested. So at the time, I was actually just before a purchase of a new vehicle, well, used but new for me vehicle, and we actually bought a Land Cruiser, or in the US that I believe it would be a GX470 Lexus, with the thought in mind that we can do a long overland trip with that vehicle at some point. But when I bought it, it wasn't the plan yet. I guess we can talk about the car a bit later. But basically, a few years ago, I was already had a vague idea that I'd like to do something like this, and luckily Evelyn was a very good partner in this, and she's also very interested.
Yeah, as Ferenc mentioned, he did this Mongolian trip before, and at the beginning, or from the beginning of our relationship, he was always talking about this big Mongolian trip. So that was the first time when I heard about the overlanding. And we were watching many YouTube videos together, and I was getting excited when we were watching these videos. So yeah, this Ferenc and this YouTube videos inspired me. And I'm really enjoying it, to be honest. Yeah, first it was a little bit weird for me when I heard that he was sitting in the car for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get used to it very
That's
quickly.
Great.
Yeah.
So do tell us about your current vehicle and any name you may have given it.
We're not given a name at all. We just call it the Toyota, but which may be very boring. But we haven't named it. So it's a 2006 Toyota Land Cruiser. Most of the world would call it the Prado. In Europe, it's just a Land Cruiser. We have very limited range of, we have limited selection of these kind of big 4x4 vehicles in Europe for some reason. So it's the Land Cruiser Prado. In the US, it would be the Lexus GX470, and it's a 3-liter diesel, which is powerful enough. It's got enough torque, and the diesel makes it, well, there's no other option available in Europe other than the diesel for this car. But basically the range is much better than with a V8. So the range is about 600 miles, including our jerry can. So the modifications on the car, the drivetrain, the engine, and the transmission, which is automatic, it's got a 5-speed automatic, is not touched. It's all stock. However, because I just wanted the Toyota reliability, I didn't really want to touch anything that was related to getting from A to B in terms of starting the engine, transmission, all that. However, the suspension is upgraded. We installed a snorkel. We got an Expedition roof rack from Front Runner, and we've got bash plates under the car, which proved to be immensely useful many times. And we've got BF Goodrich tires, the KO2s, Unfortunately, I also kept the stock size of the tires, which is 265 per 65. I can't really tell how many inches is that, but basically the factory size. And I think that was a mistake. I should have increased the tire sizes by one size, I think, to increase the height of the car a little bit. Yeah, that was a mistake.
What is that one thing you value the most, either on or in your vehicle?
I think maybe because of the efforts is the drawer system that I built with my dad.
Yeah.
It's so when we looked into what kind of equipment and what kind of stuff we need for an overland trip, one of the most obvious ones is that everyone is trying to get organized without the messy trunk and messy interior of the car. You need to get a drawer system or something similar. When we went to Scandinavia last year, we only used plastic boxes and things like that, which was one step from not having everything around in the car, but it wasn't any good. Then we went to Africa in January this year. When before that, we already built a drawer system with a fridge slide with my dad. And that was like, drawer. Yeah, that was one drawer and one fridge slide. And that proved to be too small for what we need. So we built another drawer on top of the existing one, as well as lengthened the whole thing up until the first seats, the driver's seat and the passenger seat on the front. So basically, we have a platform where we can sleep inside as well. Although we kept the third seat in the second row, but that can be folded down, and then we extend the platform with a foldable flap. Basically, we have a short but good enough platform to sleep occasionally in the car when we can't use the rooftop tent. So like if it's too windy, too rainy, we have to stop in a village or something like that, we can sleep inside. It's not comfortable. It's very, very small and claustrophobic a little bit, but we manage. And I think that's one of the most important parts, or most valuable parts of the truck, because of so much effort went into it with my dad.
Yeah, and it's really nice. I really like it. We have two drawers, one for the kitchen stuff and one for the camping stuff. And we have two shelves at the side doors as well. Yeah, and the sleeping platform for me is very convenient because I'm smaller than or shorter than Ferenc. But the ceiling is just 30 centimeters away from our face, but I can say it's very cozy.
Basically, we have 10 inches of headroom.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. A very intimate space.
It is.
Yeah.
Anything you originally packed that you never used or removed from your overall setup?
No, I don't think
really.
there's...
We learned a lot from our previous trips. So we travel light. That's our philosophy.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that I wish I had on the truck, but nothing that we packed and we don't have.
What are those things that you wish you did have?
More modifications, I would say. Maybe more recovery gear. Like I should have probably installed a winch and have a high lift jack. These are the two things we were missing a few times in Mongolia. Although obviously a winch would come with a much heavier bumper on the front, and weight was a very big consideration when we were planning the vehicle or planning our equipment. So and of course cost. One of these bumpers on the front would have costed thousands and thousands of dollars, plus the winch and all that. But nevertheless, I think we still should have had one. It would have helped us a few times. So yeah, recovery gear, a bit more recovery gear. We would have been more comfortable.
Okay, and do you have anything with you, like a Max Trax or any traction mats at all?
Yeah. We have recovery gear. So what we have is We have Max Treks with us, although I'm saying Max Treks, but they're actually fake Max Treks, some from some other brand. Not fake Max Treks, but sand mats from another brand, which I can't even tell what brand it is. But they were just fine. And we have, what else do we have? We have toe straps, like kinetic rope. We have, is that pretty much it? No, I think we have something else, but I can't even remember what it is. But the two major recovery equipment that we have, the least that we could get away with, I thought, were the Max Tracks and the kinetic rope.
Okay, and the traction mats that you've got, do you have just two, like one set, or do you have four of them?
Yeah, I had just two.
Okay.
And 90% of the time when we got stuck, these were just enough. So like either the toe strap or the recovery, the sand mats were just enough. So 90% of the time. So when I say I should have had more, yes, in those extreme situations when you really, really get stuck, then you really, really need those. But 90% of the time you just carry them with you without any use. So it's always a compromise, I think, with weight and money. And
we have been in the Sahara before, and Max Tracks or the sand mats were totally enough. And most of the time we had other travelers with our car, so I can say our car is very reliable.
Yeah, it helps itself most of the time. What we also, I would say, it's part of our recovery gear is the ARB compressor that we have with us. Is the one cylinder, just the usual ARB compressor. And obviously when we lower the tire pressures, it helps in many situations where you don't really need a winch and don't really need sand mats either. It just, the car would take itself out of the desperate situation very easily with low tire pressures. And then we air back up with the compressor.
Okay, very good. What are your current top 2 or 3 destinations, along with a little detail on what made them so special for you?
Okay, well, Mongolia, there's 2 countries, I think, in the world which are really, really good for overlanding, at least where I've been to so far. And one of them is Morocco. We've been there in January and February.
Yeah, and also Georgia. The whole country looks like a natural park, and we have been in many good places there.
Yeah, I was actually going to say something else, but that's an interesting. So maybe we have 3 top destinations now. Because, that just reminded me. Georgia, the country next to the Black Sea, is just absolutely fantastic to discover. High mountains, great off-road tracks, all those. But other than Morocco, I was going to say Mongolia. Mongolia is very special because it's one of the largest countries in the world. I don't know how, like it's within the first 10, I think. But it only has 3 million people. The population is only 3 million, which means the country is empty. You can go anywhere you want and do anything you want, and they don't have roads really. There's really, really few roads that are paved. A lot of them are being built at the moment. And but otherwise, major roads between 2 towns, like main roads, would be just dirt tracks. You go and drive between 2 towns on just a trail, and then if there's a rainy season or if there's a rainy weather, then those tracks move like 100 yards away where it's still dry, and then that's where cars are going, and then all these tracks are moving constantly. And it's just a really, really nice. It's very hard to get from A to B, don't get me wrong, but very nice when you're overlanding and you basically travel 90% of the time you travel off-road.
Yeah, super interesting.
Yeah, you can find camp spots easily, and you can meet many other overlanders in Mongolia because it's a big destination of overlanders.
From Europe especially, many people from Europe are just want to get to Mongolia as a destination because there's just so much to do there. And there's a misconception about Mongolia. Everybody thinks it's just a grassland. It's a big grassland, nothing else there. But it's got canyons, it's got rivers, it's got mountains, it's got desert, then it's got wetlands, it's got everything you need. It's like a big playground.
Nice valleys with spiders.
Yeah, there's a lot of spiders in some places.
Not into spiders.
We don't like
Evelyn
spiders.
said big spiders.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Mongolia, Georgia, anything else you'd like to mention?
Yeah, Morocco.
Yeah.
Is fantastic. It's not surprisingly many movies were shot in Morocco because the scenery is just unbelievable. Some of the places, the rock formations, dry riverbeds. You drive in dry riverbeds many times, as well as if there's water in the river. Then you don't have bridges. You just there are fords where you can go through, and then you have like really high mountains with snow, as well as you drive half a day, and then you end up in the Sahara Desert with massive sand dunes. So it's very varied. People are nice, although in market towns they don't really leave you alone if you're not buying anything. So it's a fantastic place.
Yeah, and we have been there in February, which was a little bit cold for us since we have a rooftop tent. So I can suggest that if anybody would like to go there, just go there in spring or in autumn, because it's
probably
very nice.
March, April, or probably September, October is the best time to go to Morocco.
Oh, okay. Good advice.
What's a favorite meal or recipe you enjoy while traveling?
Oh, we have a lot of stuff with us, ready meals, canned food, and also we have a lot of pasta, tortillas, and rice. So we can do some tuna pasta. That's one of our favorites, and also the burrito. It's really easy to make it, especially when you find minced meat. And we also do sometimes some stew, like for example chicken stew with some pasta.
Yeah, we don't really have a special recipe. We usually, I think that's what we did during this trip. We tried to have quick and easy meals, like a pasta or rice or something like that. But during our 43 days through China, just the last month basically, or actually earlier this month in September, we had an Italian guy with us with a Land Rover Defender, and obviously as an Italian he liked his food, so we cooked really nice pastas and risottos and things like that. So that was nice. But what we also did before the trip as part of our preparation, we knew that sometimes buying fresh food won't be easy, and also when we are on the road, we'd like to have a warm cooked lunch most of the time, which means stopping for lunch. However, maybe also saving on time by not cooking something for very long. So we had this expedition food with us. It's I believe it's a Spanish company called Forestia. I'm not sure if it's available in the US, but they were pretty good. It's just the usual adventure food that you just put in a pot and warm up, and in 5 minutes you have something like a ready meal. But they claim it's healthy and it tasted all right. So that's our solution for something quick but still a warm meal. Otherwise, we just cook pasta and rice, I think.
Yeah. Before this trip, I collected many recipes for the trip, and at the beginning it was quite easy to find fresh meat, vegetables, and fruits in the supermarket, for example, Turkey or Georgia, but after it was really hard to find fresh stuff. So
like Kazakhstan or Mongolia, not only you don't come across a supermarket, but you don't meet people at all, so it's hard to buy stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, and you guys have a pretty limited amount of space. Any tips you've got on what cookware to use?
Yeah, we have so our drawer system organizes our limited space, so that's why it's so useful. So as Evelyn mentioned, the top drawer of we have two drawers, and the top one holds all of our kitchen equipment. And we have two things. We have a 2-burner stove, a Primus 2-burner gas stove, and we have these disposable gas canisters with us, which last quite long. And you can get them if you find in some major city, you find a camping shop, they would probably have the same kind of canisters. And so we have 2-burner stove. We use it to cook our bigger meals for dinner or lunch or something. But we also have a 1-burner, just a small screw-on backpacker style gas cooker. Yeah. And we use that just to maybe cook, make a quick coffee or warm up water, boil water for tea or something like that. So we have a quick access 1-burner backpacker style gas cooker, and we also have the 2-burner for more comfortable, more established. When we set up the camp, we definitely use the 2-burner. But if we just stop by the road, when we use the 1-burner quick backpacker gas cooker.
And we have a nice foldable table at the back door.
Oh yeah, this classic fold down DIY table.
Yeah, so on provisions, how do you plan for purchasing groceries during longer trips? Then if you can add any tips for purchasing fresh meats and vegetables from the smallest towns and villages that you visited.
Yeah, so it obviously depends a lot on the country. When we left Hungary, the first few countries up until maybe Georgia was very easy. You always find a town with a supermarket, and usually it will be reliable in terms of the meat is fresh. And I think there's a big difference between finding vegetables and meat, because vegetables is always easier. You just come across a small farm or a village, local market. You will always find vegetables, and you can trust those. It's not gonna be, you can't do too bad with that, can't go too wrong. However, with meat is a bit dangerous, so we are a bit careful with that. It's as bad it is, we use a lot of canned meat. We did initially obviously fresh meat, and then we had some canned meat for those countries where we can't find fresh meat. So it's a mix of both fresh and non-fresh. But tips, for example, in Mongolia, I would say maybe speak to a local friend, or try to find a local friend or other overlanders where they bought their meat, and then maybe go to the same place if it worked out.
And also the iOverlander application is quite useful, because you can find information.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Okay.
So usually Overlanders also put in good markets or shops where you can get your stuff.
Okay,
but
really good.
I think during our trip now, so far, it was only Kazakhstan and Mongolia where we really had to look for fresh meat. Otherwise, the world is much more developed than we thought in these areas. So you can always find good supermarkets.
Yeah, that's good to know.
How do you generally do your laundry on the road?
Okay, well, we have a collapsible bucket.
And we have some detergent with us. So if we couldn't find laundry, then we can do some hand wash, but we always try to find some laundry on the iOverlander application. And also when we choose our guest house or hostel for a night, we always ask
if they have laundry service.
Yeah, we can use it.
But we usually do it by hand. So we have a bucket that we use, and when we camp next to a river, that's a good place to actually have enough water with us to wash our clothes. Otherwise, laundry service. So in these countries are usually cheap, so you get it usually back dry, not always. So sometimes our car looks like a place because we put our line above behind our seats, just crisscross the line back and forth in the car, and then hang our socks and underwear on it until it dries.
Now, a lot of people that we talk to from Holland, when they use a bucket, it's something that screws closed. They put the laundry in, they put soap, they put water, they put it on top of the roof, then it agitates as they drive throughout the day. Is that what you're referring to as a bucket, or do you use it in a different way?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So we put water, detergent, and then just soak it in the soapy water, and then we rinse it with clean water. So it's nothing really fancy or complicated. It works.
And hygiene, do you have a shower and toilet setup, or what's your recommendation for keeping it simple and hygienic on the road?
Yes, we have a shower tent with us and also an electric shower set, including the head and the pipe. And in the foldable bucket, we can warm up some water, and we just put the pipe in the water, and we have a nice warm shower. But it only works in good weather. For example, when we were in a high altitude or when it was rainy, we couldn't use it. So.
Which one? The electric shower?
Yes, and the shower tent.
Yeah, well, we also have the classic black shower bag. So we have two sets actually. So we have the 12-volt immersible pump electric shower that we can just use with our bucket, the same bucket that we use for the laundry. And we also have the black shower bag that basically warms water up if you just leave it on the car and the sun is up. But in a couple of occasions, we actually warmed up water on a campfire, put it in the bucket, and then we had hot shower using the 12-volt electric shower. And we have this pop-up shower tent. It's really, really useful. If it's a little bit cold or it's a little bit windy, and I'm talking about the weather before our current place, so before Southeast Asia, like Mongolia or before that, when it was cold quite a few times, and the pop-up shower tent was extremely useful. And same for the toilet. So our toilet solution is basically biodegradable bags, biodegradable toilet paper, and the shovel. That's our toilet. However, we made it a bit more comfortable with, obviously we have the pop-up shower tent, which can be used as a shelter for the toilet. And we bought a cheap like camping chair that I converted into a toilet. So how it works is basically it's a seat with a hole in it, and using some wires we can attach the biodegradable bags onto it, put the chair with the bag in the shower tent, and we have a private space with a toilet.
I love it.
So for Evelyn, it's a queen's chair.
Yeah,
basically.
it is.
Would you agree?
Yeah. And and then we have the shovel. Obviously, the shovel I forgot to mention. It's not only used for the toilet; it's part of our recovery gear.
Okay, so it's like a standard full-size shovel.
Yes. Well, it's one of those small off-road shovels. I'm not sure how big a full size is, but yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I wish we had two though. I wish we had two of those.
Anything you change about your current setup?
Everything. Yes. I think as a budget solution, if someone's looking to start out overlanding and maybe doesn't want to go on to a 6-month trip immediately, but maybe a couple of weeks, a week or something like that, maybe a weekend, a small SUV, well, I'll say small, I think it wouldn't be small for many people, but as an overlanding vehicle, I think it's a small car. Our setup, the GX470 or the Prado is a small overlanding car. Starting with something similar, plus a rooftop tent and maybe a drawer system, that's totally enough and works just fine. But if you're going on to a 6-month trip like we did, I think, and we also see other overlanders now, many, I think using a rooftop tent may not be the best solution, because when you open it and close it, as easy as it is, if you do it every day, it becomes a task. It becomes just some chores you don't want to do. So I think a pop-up roof works better, or maybe like a pickup setup with a cabin where you can stand up in your living space. Things like that. Something that works in bad weather as well as good weather is just so much better. For us, rain and wind is a major concern. You don't really want to pack up the tent when it's raining, but also when you step out the tent, you're immediately in the rain. We have an awning, and you can also stand under the rooftop tent. Then it's overhanging part, but you're still outside, and it doesn't work in the cold. So as a starter setup, it's fine. Long term, it's not fine. So we plan to actually sell and look for another solution for our next adventure.
Yeah, good advice. So what has been your number one biggest challenge you've had to overcome on the road?
Oh, it was in Mongolia when we stuck in a wetland mixed with horse poo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, we had a couple of really bad situations where we got stuck.
The worst situation were in Mongolia. Yeah. One is during the night when we got stuck, and the other one, this wetland that I mentioned.
But other than maybe off-roading events like this, the biggest challenge, I think, was to solve the problems with the car, because we had a couple of issues. One of them was the starter motor not working properly. It started the car, but however, it just made those clicking noises that you weren't sure if it's going to start or not. So at that point, obviously, I looked into it and I knew that the starter motor was dirty inside. It had some dust or something, or mud, I don't know, something like that. So it didn't really want to engage the starting cog to start the flywheel. Anyway, and I'm not a mechanic, I'm a lawyer, so I can't really fix things like this on the road. So finding a mechanic in Mongolia who wanted to touch this part of the car, it was quite challenging down south. In Ulaanbaatar, obviously, it wouldn't have been a problem, but we were in the Gobi Desert. And when we came across a couple of towns and went to mechanics, they just didn't want to touch it. So then we had to abandon our plans and drive up north to another town. And during that time, we got really badly stuck during the night, and that's where I said why I said we should have had 2 shovels, because we only had one, and I was shoveling for 4 hours before we could free the car. But anyway, that was just getting stuck, just the usual stuff. But finding someone to fix our starter motor was quite exciting or challenging, I'd say. That was one, and the second one was that and it's connected with our starter motor, because I would advise, if you can, go for a manual car if you're going on a long trip, remote places like maybe outside of your home country. Go for a manual, because even if it's too heavy to push it, you can still park it on a hill and you can jump start it, but you cannot do that with an automatic if your starter motor fails. So we had the problem with the starter motor, and then we had a problem with our transmission as well. The automatic transmission just wouldn't shift into 4th or 5th. It remained in 3rd. So we've done about 600 miles in just 3rd gear, going from middle of Mongolia to the Chinese border and further, until we found really good mechanics in China who could identify the problem and then fix the problem. Like we needed a new part. So basically what happened is we had so many river crossings and bad muddy sections in Mongolia that one of the cables that was in connection with the transmission, one of the cable's connections got corroded. So that, I guess, some signal didn't go into the transmission, and it prevented from the transmission from shifting from 3rd to 4th and 5th. So it remained in 3rd, and that was a big concern, because first of all, I didn't know what it was, and I expected it to be very expensive, whether it can be fixed or not, all those sort of stuff. And then eventually It wasn't cheap, but at least the cable replacement fixed it in China.
Yeah, which is a lot better than replacing or rebuilding the transmission.
Exactly. So I was glad it's an electronic problem and it's a small one, so it's nothing like a control unit or something.
Yeah.
So yay for cables.
Yes.
Great way to look at it. And that is the end of part 1 with Evelyn and Ferenc with Overlandsite. A lot of fun to talk to this couple, and a lot of new information and a lot of things that we learned, both in part 1 that we just listened to, and coming up next week, next Thursday, on part 2. It's some really new, great information that Ferenc is going to share in part 2, so we're excited about that. We are going to keep this post-episode chat super short. The day that this is released is December 20th of 2018, in case you're listening in 2030. Not sure. But in any case, a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and to yours from us and ours. So Merry Christmas if you're listening to this on the week of Christmas. Be sure and share the episode with your friends. That would mean a lot to us. That would be a great gift to us from you, is to just share the episode. Tell your friends and family about the GHT Overland and learning so much information, hearing so many great stories from overlanders around the globe. You can check out the show notes at ghtOverland.com and click on Overlandsite. All the information is there for you. If you want to send us any information, questions, suggestions, feedback, cries of outrage, you can do that at ghtOverlandPodcast@gmail.com. So we hope you have a great week, a very safe and exploratory overland trip maybe that you're currently on. We appreciate you listening. Thank you so much. Cheers.